is a case that has everything except an arrest.
HSBC.
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 Money laundering is a dark art that lets criminals turn dirty cash into clean, legitimate money. It's the invisible river that connects crime to luxury, allowing billions of dollars to slip through the cracks in our global financial system. But how criminals do it? And how do they avoid getting caught? In this video, I'll dive into the world of money laundering, revealing the techniques, loopholes, and the case of HSBC, illustrating how billions of dirty money flow undetected through the financial system. Money laundering is the process of taking money earned from illegal activities and disguising its origins to make it appear legitimate. For criminals, it's the critical step between committing a crime and enjoying the profits. From drug trafficking and arms sales to tax evasion and corruption, money laundering supports nearly every kind of organized crime. Once laundered, this money can flow freely through the legitimate economy, funding more crime and buying influence and power. Money laundering generally happens in three main stages: placement, layering, and integration. Placement is where the criminals introduces their illegal money into the financial system. Cash-based businesses like nightclubs or casinos are often used at this stage because they deal in large amounts of cash, making it easier to slip in illegal funds. Sometimes criminals use smurfing, where they break up large sums into smaller deposits to avoid detection. For example, they deposit currency in small amounts across different bank accounts. Next comes layering. This stage involves making the money trail as complex as possible. Criminals wire funds to offshore accounts, buy high-value items like art or property, or funnel money through a web of shell companies that exist only on paper. By constantly moving the money around, they create a confusing trail that makes it nearly impossible to trace back to its origins. Finally, in the integration stage, the money re-enters the economy in a way that looks legitimate. It's used to buy real estate, luxury goods, or invest in legitimate businesses. At this point, it's almost impossible to distinguish clean money from dirty money. Money launderers have developed sophisticated techniques to evade detection. Let's look at a few of the most common ones. One of the most popular tools for laundering money is the shell company. A shell company exists on paper but has no real operations. Criminals use these companies to hide the true ownership of assets, making it hard for investigators to trace the funds. By layering money through a series of shell companies in different countries, criminals create an almost impenetrable shield of secrecy. Real estate is favored for laundering money. Criminals buy a property with illegal funds and then sell it at a profit. By repeatedly buying and selling properties, they launder millions while earning legitimate income. Another technique is trade-based laundering. It involves manipulating invoices for goods. Criminals overvalue or undervalue goods on an invoice, using international trade as a cover to transfer illicit funds.
Today's video is brought to you by Prime Emporio, your one-stop destination for various household and fashion products and accessories. Discover the ultimate shopping experience at their online store, offering an extensive range of products. Don't forget to check out their online store and treat yourself to something special.
Now let's explore an infamous case where money laundering was exposed on a massive scale. In 2012, HSBC was found guilty of allowing billions in drug money to flow through its accounts. US investigators revealed that the bank had inadequate controls, making it easy for Mexican drug cartels to launder money through HSBC accounts. HSBC's lack of strict controls in Mexico made it the perfect bank for laundering billions in drug money for various drug cartels, including the infamous Sinaloa Cartel. HSBC's Mexico branch was notorious for its lax rules on cash deposits and wire transfers. Even while other banks tightened their controls after the 9/11 attacks, HSBC Mexico continued to process large sums without raising red flags. For the cartels, this was a golden opportunity to move huge sums of drug money into the financial system. Only a handful of people know that HSBC Mexico offered Cayman Islands accounts to clients, accounts that didn't even require names or traceable identifiers. This allowed Mexican drug cartels to funnel billions into the Cayman Islands, where their money was essentially off the radar. HSBC Mexico opened over 50,000 untraceable accounts linked to the Cayman Islands. These accounts became one of the most popular methods for cartels to stash illicit cash with little oversight. One of the most disturbing parts of the scandal was how HSBC ignored numerous internal red flags. Whistleblowers and compliance officers within the bank tried to sound the alarm multiple times. In 2002, an internal HSBC report noted highly suspicious transactions in HSBC, Mexico, and warned that the bank was dealing with significant cartel money. But these warnings went ignored for years. At one point, an internal compliance officer raised concerns over specific HSBC clients who were linked to narco trafficking. Yet, HSBC didn't act. According to a US Senate report, HSBC even cleared suspicious wire transfers and large cash deposits from known high-risk clients, simply because executives feared losing business. HSBC global size also gave it an advantage. The perception that it was too big to prosecute. When the scandal broke, US authorities were wary of charging HSBC criminally, fearing that it would destabilize the banking system. Instead, HSBC was fined $1.9 billion, which was just a fraction of its profits. Some government officials argued that HSBC should have faced criminal prosecution as smaller banks did in similar cases. Yet, they ultimately backed down, worrying about the potential consequences for the global economy. After the fine, HSBC promised sweeping changes. They hired hundreds of new compliance officers, upgraded their monitoring systems, and conducted large-scale staff training on anti-money laundering practices. But to this day, there are many questions whether these changes were enough or if HSBC's culture simply adjusted to avoid future fines rather than truly preventing criminal activity. The reality is that profit first, oversight second. Former employees have since claimed that while HSBC tightened controls, the underlying incentive structure remained. In 2020, HSBC was linked to yet another money laundering scandal. A hidden detail within HSBC's practices highlights a broader loophole in banking regulations: suspicious activity reports. Banks are required to file SARs when they suspect illegal activity, but they are under no obligation to stop doing business with these clients. HSBC reportedly filed reports on suspicious clients yet continued to process their transactions, knowing that filing the reports gave them plausible deniability. This loophole allowed HSBC to continue facilitating large transactions for high-risk clients. You may think that HSBC's scandal is just another story of greed and oversight failure, but in reality, it's much more than this. It exposed critical flaws in the global banking system, how large banks operating across borders evade accountability. Even with fines and promises of reforms, banks as big as HSBC hold the power to enable money laundering on a massive scale. The HSBC scandal is a wake-up call because money laundering affects us all. It fuels crime, drives corruption, and destabilizes economies. HSBC case highlights why transparency, stricter regulations, and real accountability in banking are more necessary than ever. As individuals, we can play our role too. By reporting suspicious activities, educating ourselves, and staying alert, we can help close some of the loopholes launderers rely on. Remember, money laundering thrives in the shadows. Only with vigilance we can bring it to light.